asked to put this here. And I think I know what it's about, and I'm going to make this very easy for everybody. I don't want to see this issue drag on. I know many of you are upset over the Municipality District of Yarmouth's survey. Therefore, to make sure that this does not impede the process, I'm going to step down as chairperson of this committee. I think it's very important that we have clarity. We've made a lot of progress, and I want to make sure that that progress keeps going. And I certainly don't want to be a part of holding anything up or anything like that. So the vice chair of this committee is Pam. So Pam, I'm going to turn over the floor to you.
Okay.
I don't know if we need to do a motion to elect a new chair and vice chair, but since you're the vice chair and I've stepped away, you can do that. So
Okay.
Thank you, everyone. It's been
all right. Thanks, John. I think that's what we need to do. So if I'm sitting in the chair right now, I don't know that it's up to me to make a motion, but if somebody wants to make that motion to do the election of a new chair and a new vice chair, then that would be appropriate. Okay, moved by Guy. Or did you want to end second by Councillor Barry? Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Okay, so we're looking for nominations for the chair.
I'll nominate. Okay, go ahead, Steve. If you
Okay,
want
go
to.
ahead, Councillor Deputy Mayor.
I'd like to nominate Nicole Albright.
Okay, for the chair. Nicole, do you accept that?
Sure.
Okay. All right, and Councillor Dares? You're on mute.
You're on mute.
Sorry, I'll second that nomination.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. All right, and Nicole accepts it. Are there any further nominations? I'll ask 3 times. Are there any further nominations? Are there any further nominations?
I move nomination cease.
Thank you. Seconded by Deputy Mayor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. So Deputy Warden, I can turn that over to you and you can do the election for the, or do you want me to do the vice?
Nope, that's it. That's okay. I can do it.
Okay, go ahead.
Sure. All right. Okay, thank you, everybody. Are there any nominations for vice chair?
I will nominate Steve Barry.
Steve Barry. Steve, do you accept the nomination?
I do. Thank you.
He has. Is there a seconder?
Again, I'll second that.
Okay, I saw Councillor Surratt had seconded, hands up first. So are there any other nominations for vice chair? Are there any other nominations for vice chair? So for the 3rd time, any nominations for vice chair?
I
Okay.
move nomination cease.
Thank you. Seeing
I'll second that.
second, thank you. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Motion carried. So Steve, Deputy Warden, Deputy Mayor Barry is nominated as Vice Chair. Thank you. And that's all for the elections. So next on the agenda, we have the approval of the minutes. So minutes for the 30th of March, 2021. That was our last meeting. So has everybody had the chance to look at the minutes?
Can I have a question on the minutes.
Yeah.
I wasn't at the meeting, but I was I was there. I was just as an observer. I was in hospital that night. So I saw where it says that the let me just bring them up. The new build had been dissolved, and I thought it was the bridge committee that had been dissolved at that time, and I'm wondering if that's not a mistake.
I was thinking the same thing, Warden Muse. So can we get some clarity on that when it's the 3rd? Because I saw that as well. It's the 3rd under 4.1.1 recommendations. It's the 3rd motion. So it was moved by Mayor Pem Mood, seconded by Deputy Warden Nicole Albright, to merge the new build subcommittee into the main committee and cease subcommittee meetings unless needed for a specific purpose. was it the new build we had merged, or was it the bridge committee we had merged? Duran?
It's just my impressions of that conversation was, once you folded the bridge committee, what was the point of a subcommittee under the expansion committee? So
Okay,
you basically are left with one committee. Why have two
okay,
in name? So it was just recognizing you've just got a labeling issue there.
okay. Mayor Mood?
Yeah, thank you. That was my under number 3 there, the restructure and read the subcommittees, because I wasn't very clear on that either. So just thinking that we wanted to tidy it up to make sure that it is just one committee now, because
Okay.
that's all that's needed. So that's why I added that one.
Okay. So is everybody clear on that? We're just going to have that one committee here on in.
Yes.
That's good, okay?
Yes.
So do we need, so we're gonna leave it as is? If we leave it as is, then that is perfect. Okay,
Exactly.
all right. Anything else regarding the minutes? Counselor Surratt?
It said that the two wardens and the mayor were supposed to move to meet with the feds and the provincial reps. Has anything happened there?
No, I was just going to ask that same question. So we need to move on that right away.
Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Surratt. Anyone else? Okay, can we have somebody move those minutes? Oh, sorry, Duran? Yep.
Yeah, it might not fit here. It's a question, and that, do you need to revisit the mandate of the committee? Do you need to sort of just take another read there and make sure that the mandate and the objectives of the committee are razor sharp at this point in time?
What does this group feel? Mayor Mood?
Sorry.
That's
Yeah,
okay.
I agree with that. I don't know if it goes right here. Maybe
Yeah.
Jeff or Len could tell us where it fits. But I reread are you talking about the terms of reference?
If that's what they're called.
That's-
I mean,
Yeah, I
why
think
are
that's
we meeting and what objectives are we clearly setting
exactly.
as a group?
Yeah. So maybe, I don't know where we do that, Jeff or Len, but we probably should discuss. I had at least one issue with them, which was basically the in-camera where we can't share the content with our councils. That just is kind of counterproductive to what we're trying to do with transparency. So maybe we could take another peek at them over the next little bit. And
If I may, I think what we have to do right now, I don't believe that has anything to do with
Yeah.
approving the minutes. And I think what we have to do right now is approve the minutes, and then we can go into the business to do those things.
correct.
That's my view, anyway. That's what I would say.
Okay. Thank you, Warden Muse. So can we have somebody?
I will move, no, I can't move the minutes because I wasn't.
You
at the
weren't
meeting.
there.
I'll
Right.
move them.
Okay, thank you. So moved by Mayor Mood, seconded by Deputy Warden Barry. Is there any other questions on that? Okay,
Question.
question's been called. All those in favor signify by raising your hand or saying aye.
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 Contrary, raise your hand or say aye. Motion carried. All right, so then, did I skip restructuring the subcommittees? I think I did, didn't I?
I think we just did that. I added it because I was confused. So I thought if we have to restructure, then we should reappoint the leads. That's all.
Okay.
That's where that came from.
So then in business, this is where we can discuss the terms of reference. So we're looking at tightening up our terms of reference and taking another look at them to ensure that our mandate is clear and that our reason for meeting is clear. So we would have to do that before. It would be a good idea to do that for this committee. Is everybody in agreement with that?
Yes.
Okay. So can we have a motion to that? So moved by Counselor Surratt. Do we have a seconder? Warden Cunningham? Any discussion?
Could I just ask if the motion be read so it's clear?
Sure. So we are going to, I would think that the motion would be that we are going to revisit the terms of reference for this new committee. Does that sound okay, Gil?
Okay, yeah, I guess.
Jeff,
Who's doing that work?
who does that work? That's a
Just-
great question.
Well, if you're asking the CAOs to do it, that's fine. If you're asking a subcommittee or a group of people from this group to get together and do that, that's fine too. But just should be
Wanna
clear.
know. Yep, absolutely. So what is the wish of the people in this committee? Who do we feel should work on that? Gil?
I would suggest that the 3 CAOs put their heads together on that one.
Okay. Does that sound okay? Duran?
And I'm happy to offer any support there
Okay.
if it adds value, if they need
Sorry,
it.
and if I might, sorry, Duran, as soon as I finished speaking, I thought, and Duran, but I'd already
Oh.
myself. Sorry.
It's everything. I'm in new territory, but I intuitively it felt like we were at a milestone that required dusting off why we were meeting it initially, and I think the community would expect us to sharpen our pencils as we reset this committee.
Absolutely.
Counselor Surratt?
Could, Madam Chair, could we add on the minutes, not on the minutes, on the motion, that the 3 CAOs will be taking care of that, just to be clear?
Absolutely. The 3 CAOs and Duran as well.
And, sorry, Doran.
You just want me to leave? I can.
No, we don't.
Just say
Definitely
it.
not.
CAOs and CEO. How's that?
Yes, that's a great point.
The CEO
So-
sandwich.
Is that amendment okay to the mover and the seconder? Okay, any other discussion on that? That's good, Jeff? You're good with that?
100%, yeah,
Okay. All right.
thank you.
Question?
Question's been called. All those in favor signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded, you can speak up. Good, motion carried. Next, we have 6.1, I guess is 6.2 right now, Green Building Communities Fund. I'm not sure who is speaking on that one today.
I think it was Alan that had asked to have that added to the agenda.
Okay, thank
And
you.
since the municipality Argyle had already gone through that process in your guys' new administration building, I think that's where that come from.
Okay, thank you. Go
Yes,
ahead, CEO Muse.
that is correct. We did go through the process. It was for the Eelbrook fire station that we worked collaboratively with a project manager to get a little bit more information on this application. So as it turns out, fire stations don't qualify, but that's one thing I learned. But I think as part of the meeting on the 20th, I think this will come up again. And the question is we have an opportunity, a new funding opportunity under green community buildings. I think I may have gotten that.
Green and inclusive.
Yeah. So here's what we should know about it. Okay. As a committee, number one, the deadline. The deadline is July the 6th, which gives us, a little less than 2 months to put in an application. I did take the liberty to look into, approximately how long it might take to do an application of this type, and it would probably take at least a month to do it properly. And that's based on ideal conditions. And that, it can be done quicker or slower than that. That's why my concern is being raised on this, is that we are moving into a time zone that we need to make a decision on this. So just to give you a little bit of information on the funding itself, it's a maximum of $20 million on the project. It is up to there are different categories. The category that would be applied for in this case would be the largest category, which is the 25 million and above. And so this this application would allow us to get to 20 million, which if you think about our conversations that we've had with the provincial and federal counterparts, they were looking at 15 being on the high end. Well, this is a new program, so this potentially gives us an opportunity to be a little bit higher. We envision approximately a 30 to 33-ish $1 million construction. It could be more, depending on what we end up keeping or doing. So what that, I guess, ideal situation is we'd be successful for the whole 20 million, and then we'd have to either, we'd have to do our own parts individually to fund the remainder, including a fundraiser that would have to occur. So I guess I want to raise it here, and it will come up again on the 20th. So earlier this week, the CAOs met with Max Chauvin in preparation for the 20th. And he raised a variety of issues, one of which is how big is the project, or more specifically, how big is your portion of the project? And so we'll have those conversations on the 20th. And I know some of the councils have already met to kind of think about what their range of affordability is. So we need to get to that number as quickly as possible. That work should be mostly done on the 20th, upon which there are a couple of other decisions that need to be made, either by this committee or on the 20th. And it would be one, to engage the individual or individuals that would be responsible for applying for this funding, because it is it has iterations, it can be complicated. The CAOs all agreed very quickly that we don't possess the time or expertise to do it properly, but we can play the role of assist, and we will. So we should be hiring somebody, third party, or somebody with a level of experience that can put this thing together. Whomever that person is should be aligned directly with EXP as well. So an engineer language is helpful. And we know of at least one person that could probably do that, but that's not for me to say. That's I'm speaking about Mark Brophy. We have identified him as a potential project manager in the past, but I cannot speak to that. That will be Jeff that needs to speak to that. And if he is not an option, then we need to find an option quickly. And so I'm raising it here, and every time we meet, I'll probably raise it again until we have an idea of what this committee wants to do. That is why it is on the agenda. And I anxiously await to hear from you.
Thank you. Is there anybody who would like to speak to that? Gordon Muse.
Just wondering, okay, the 20, this drain comes from where, federal or provincial?
That money is federal. So there's a
So-
maximum of 20 million federal. So that doesn't
Federal.
include any provincial tag on.
Okay, that's what that was my question, because if we can get 20 million, we get, a portion of something from the provincial, then we'd be in pretty good shape if we can do that. So
I think a conservative approach might be that you may not get to your 20 million federally, but if the province is a willing participant funding wise, it will increase your probability of getting to $20 million on the project.
Mhm.
That's
And-
a safe way of assessing it at this time. Obviously, we need to be successful, but I think 20 million is a good number to use for that reason. You may not get the full 20 federally.
right. Another thing too is a lot of the federal grants depend on the provincial to do to pay their share as well. And is this one the same thing? Can you get it could we get, let's say we're going to get the 20. Can we get the 20 if the provincial says, no, we're not investing in this? Usually they go hand in hand.
In this case, there is no requisite of a provincial funding.
Okay,
And I think that's purposeful, because I think the federal government was having some problems with different provinces taking different positions. So they need the money to go to projects, and they know municipalities have projects. So it's been a slight change in policy, although considerable in terms, if you think about it, right? That they're actually making that money available to municipalities directly and do not need provincial funding. I think it would strengthen the application if the province was involved, but it does not a necessity.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Duran?
Oh, I'm just gonna think how to ask this. So kind of, that sounds really encouraging, because if I remember the last conversation we had about funding, it was a smaller amount split between the different levels of government. And so this is good news. And the window's in front of us. So I love the fact that we have a deadline. I sort of ache a little bit in these conversations when we don't have deadlines. And I feel more comfortable having a conversation when we have deadlines in front of us. So I would just put it to the group. What has to happen this week and next week to put this on the rails? Similar to what we've just come out of with Mariners on Main. Every week feels like a moment of truth. I think we should all feel this urgency here. What has to happen this week? What has to happen next week? What has to happen the next 3 weeks in iteration to get this on the rails?
That was going to be my question. What's our very next step to get this moving? Is it hiring a person to become project manager? Is that that's our next step?
In my opinion, we need somebody to lead the application.
Okay.
That's the number one.
So do we put that on Jeff's plate? Like, how do we go about that? We're
Well,
throwing you under the bus today, Jeff. Like,
yeah, okay, well, I'm familiar with what it looks like under there, so I'll,
He lives under there most days.
I've talked to Mark about this, and Mark is on the meeting here, so he can certainly speak for himself. From my perspective, if we're talking about the work that's required to get from today to a completed application submitted to the federal government, then I can see that within the realm of possibility that Mark could do for us, subject to the fact that he's got a lot of other things on his plate. He does have a team that supports him, including myself, and our director of finance. We have a projects funding coordinator, and he's got a group within the engineering department. So if Mark is willing, there's lots of support from within, and I know from the other municipalities as well, and from Mariner Center that would assist him in doing that work. So I think from my perspective, that resource is on the table for this piece of work. And I want to be clear that Mark's time with the town is not infinite, as far as, he did retire once from the federal government. And I think he's looking forward to retiring at some point in the future, not too far, probably before the doors are open on this. And so I think, his involvement needs to be in chunks with finite limits, because otherwise we run into a situation where maybe Mark wants to enter another chapter of his life, and we've created a dependency within this project. But I think the application is a chunk that I have no problem in supporting him to do, subject to him feeling he has the capacity right now to do it.
okay.
So we'll throw Mark under the bus with me.
Okay, we hear from Mark?
I'm here. There's a lawnmower going in the background. Sorry about that. I mean, capacity, sure. I do know the steps. The project manager that leads this project through to completion doesn't have to be the same person that does the grant application. That's just a step along the way. So I know the steps that you need to get the consultant to do that grant application. In fact, I spoke to him this morning in anticipation of that this could happen. But Duran asked a very, very good question. What's the urgency? The urgency is two things: a target number and a minimum scope. And that's been talked about and debated for some time. If you could tell me that go with $33 million, a 6-lane pool, and the biggest fitness center you can get to 33, that's all I'd need to start, and off we go.
Thank you. Trevor, did you have something you wanted to say?
Yes. to Mark's point, it may be useful for somebody to reach out to the province before we meet. We're meeting obviously this week. Is a group of 3 municipalities for that facilitated session. Obviously, if there's provincial funding on the table, which we do not know if there is or not in this whole mix, we know probably, you know, 15 or $20 million may be the federal contribution. We're relying on that federal grant to see us through to get this important project built. So I'm just throwing the question out there. Is there somebody from the committee that could contact the province in the interim to get some idea? Because that's going to be important when we talk about, you know, what it is we're going to build. You know, I mean, obviously Mark mentioned a few things that are core of the pool, the fitness center for revenue generation and the common space, but there's also the walking track that we'll want to talk about. Certainly, you know, that my understanding is that there's widespread support for that project. I don't know if we can fit it in the envelope, but knowing if the province is on board or not is an important factor in that consideration.
Thank you. Mayor Mood?
Yeah, thank you. So to Trevor's point, Trevor, you might have come on a couple minutes late. So that's that motion in the minutes that the 2 wardens and the mayor get together and speak with the province and the feds. Is that the same thing?
You're muted, Trevor.
Oh, my apologies. Yes, but I think that should happen very soon.
Yeah, it should have happened between the last meeting and now. So we'll do, I don't mind if the 2 wardens are okay. I don't mind reaching out and seeing what we can round up.
Absolutely, anytime, any day.
Okay, thank you, John. Danny, you're good? Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect. Appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Councillor Surratt?
One thing I'd like to point out, and then maybe some have thought of this, but maybe not. This is to Jeff. Jeff, we are not, in my point is, we are not planning to have Mark Brophy here gratis. I hope there's a price. We're paying for his services. I want to be sure that this board is on board with this.
Thank you, Councillor Surratt. So if we were to, yes, go ahead, Jeff.
Look, if we were talking about Mark Brophy being involved in the project longer than the application, then I would be open to a conversation about compensating the town for his time. We're talking about a period of 4 to 6 weeks here, where he's going to focus a fair amount of his time. I have no issue with like the work to figure out how much to bill for Mark's time. It's not worth it in a true partnership. We're all in, right? So that's thank you, Guy, but no.
Okay, Jeff, I appreciate that. Mark, I know you're going to do the job. You're going to get us there. You're a good man, Mark. Thank you.
Is there anybody else?
I wanted to correct, sorry, Madam Chair, I just wanted to correct the fact that it may not be maximum of 20 million. Jeff corrected me quietly that it might be 17 million. It's still better than the 15, and that is the maximum of federal. So the 20 might still be true. I just want to make sure to clarify that it isn't 20, it's 17. That's the maximum.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Surratt?
Alain, Jeff, CAOs. So this should be a 2-phase project. Is that kind of what you got in your mind, or maybe Mark would know how to approach that? Because if the amount is only 17, I say only 17 million is big, then should we go with a 2-phase project? Just your thoughts.
Right. I'll start, and I think that others might have something to add. So the first thing, and we're going to do this work on the 20th. Okay. So the first thing we need to understand is how much are we in for as a collective, right? What does that look like? And so the project size, so there's 2 elements to that question. The first part is how big is the project? And the second part, which is more important, is how much money are you going to get from other people leaving you the balance. So the balance is actually what you're concerned with, right?
Right.
So it can be an $85 million project. If you're going to get 84 million, then you're good, right? So that piece, but I mean, Mark Brophy's correct. We need to establish the size, and because we need to know that in order to put in an effective application, we need to know what the size is. So the size is going to be, look, it's going to be between 30 and 30, it might be 30 and change. It's going to be 30, 31, 32. It's not going to be much larger than that. And I'm saying that's my opinion. Where we land on the 20th might be a slightly different number, but it's not far off from that number. So if you're talking about 30 and you've got 17 and maybe you've got 3 from the province and maybe you've got, without fundraising, you're left with between, 10, maybe you've got 12 million on the table that you need to figure out. So then the question becomes, is that something that you can live with, right? How do you share it? And how much of that do you share? So we're going to do a lot of that work on the 20th, Councillor Surratt. But I think that Mark is correct. The first thing we need to do is, what do we want? Do we want the 6-lane aquatics? Do we want the fitness center as large as we can make it for the 31 million? And does that include, or can it include, other things, right? And for the purposes of the application, we don't have to have it exactly right. Okay, this is what Max has told us, right? For the purposes of the application, it doesn't have to be perfectly accurate, right? You may have to cut things off. It depends on how much you get on the funding. So the question is what do you absolutely want? I think we're close there. On the 20th, we're going to land on that and move forward with the application. Hopefully give Mark everything he needs in order to do an effective application. And if he needs, my hand around crafting stuff, I'm happy to do that. I'm happy to lend a hand to the process. I can't speak engineer, but I have other languages, and I'm happy to help Mark be successful.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who wants to say anything on that? So my understanding is that after we leave that meeting on the 20th, we'll have so especially I guess for Durham, we'll have a much clearer idea of what the project is going to look like in terms of size and in terms of money wise. And that way Mark can go ahead and move forward with the application. Is that correct? Yeah. Okay.
What a difference 10 minutes makes. Wow, guys.
All right.
Just wanted to add one more quick thing, Nicole.
Yes, go ahead, John.
That was it's in regards to the splash park that's been brought forward to councils. I do believe every council put forward some funding in that. So you got to remember too that splash park hopefully will be included in this. So just to keep that on everyone's radar.
That's a good point. Good. Mayor Mood, did you want to say something?
I just wanted to, I think Alen kind of threw it in there, but we've got the big scope, then we've got our portion as 3 units, but we still need to nail down the percentage shares. Is that Thursday or is that another day?
It's hopefully Thursday.
Okay.
The approach that has been suggested by Max is that so we're going to do this over Zoom and we're going to have breakout meetings. So each unit will have the opportunity to put on the table what they think the share should be. Each of us, and I think the message that we tried to deliver to each other as CAOs, and I will respectfully deliver it here, is that we have a tendency to look at our own boundaries when we do this work. Right? This is a boundaryless work. So it kind of goes a little, we're going to be taking a look at it from the perspective of what makes the most sense for our residents on this project, right? We're not going to be like, well, I think I should be at 21% and like take a completely unreasonable approach to this project. I mean, realistically, all of us have had experiences where there has been a percentage on a low and on a high end on projects. We've all experienced that. We have information. So we will bring that to the discussion, each of which will set what they think the share should be individually. And then we'll have it and say, well, how close are we actually, right? So it's an interesting approach that Max suggested, and I think it might work quite well because then it'll open a dialogue. How close are we? We might be closer than we think we are because we're just allowing ourselves to have that open conversation You know, and hopefully, and I think I said this last meeting, and geez, I guess I'm talking a lot today. And also in future meetings is that we wanted to bring our issues to the table, right? So whatever political administrative issue that we might have around this project or generally, this is the place, right? So this is a workshop. It's not recorded. There are there will be a summary report that comes out of the conversation, but it is not a recorded event for people because it involves negotiation conversations, and that by its very nature would be in camera. So we're hoping to get there on the 20th. We might have a couple things to iron out, but hopefully if we have 10 things, we might have 9 done. And then at that point, we're going to be in a position where we can move forward. That's idealistic. It's realistic. We'll see.
Sounds good. Thank you. Is there anybody else who would like to speak? Okay, seeing nobody, I guess that's it for that one. And the next agenda item is next meeting. So what are we going to wait until our meeting on Thursday and kind of determine where we go from there?
If I may, the last time the mayor had asked me via email, since I'm the former chair of this committee, to hold one because of the couple of items that were here. I think we were technically holding them as an as-needed basis. If it was needed, that's, I think, the best way to go about it, because we don't know if something's going to come up on the 20th and we need to make a recommendation to forward to council. So if there is, then maybe we can call a quick meeting or something different. But it was at one time scheduled every 2 weeks, but now I don't know if there's a need. And also we're working on our terms of reference too. So
Right.
I
Okay,
guess TBA at the chair's discretion.
sounds good. Duran?
This is just for discussion. Given that there's such a significant date, July 6th, is it not worth just providing what a basic work back schedule would look like to get us there? And knowing, as Madam Chair, with that in mind, mapping when this group needs to meet, because it feels like it could be 2 weeks before we meet again. And in my opinion, that's too late for what is a 6-week delivery here. But that's just my gut and my extroversion with the mute button off.
Okay, so we will be, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead, Gil.
Yeah, I think I would prefer to meet on a one-item agenda than delay an item. So I'd be happy to meet every 2 weeks.
Okay. So we're looking kind of, Duran, are you looking kind of like in a couple of weeks to have like an update? Is that what you, just to kind of make sure we're staying on track?
It feels like you've got significant work to happen between now and over the next 6 weeks.
Mhm.
And, you know, this group owes it to themselves to know where they should be each week in 6 weeks. So if we're committed, we know what's happening each week. So in frank terms, what does that look like? I'm not trying to over-engineer it, but time flies and the sun's out and flowers are coming up and it flies even faster. So I'm just saying, let's dig in here. And if it's a 2-week milestone, sure. What do we need to get done every 2 weeks? And that's 3 milestones to get us to the finish line, just so we know where we're at or if we're sliding. Because if we get to 3 weeks and we weren't paying attention, we're screwed.
Mhm. Okay, Trevor?
Yeah, we're having on Thursday our joint meeting of the council's facilitated session to answer some of those important questions around. I would think there may be some work to do after that even. I mean, we're hoping that, we're going to achieve 100% of what it is we want to achieve there. But, that's the ideal. And the realistic point is, as your CEO had mentioned, maybe there's a few loose ends there. It's quite possible. So, I mean, I think that we should meet in a week's time, first time round, and then we can talk a little bit about what needs to be done. And perhaps we can even talk a little bit about a work schedule at the meeting on Thursday for this group. We're all going to be there, right? So, I mean, I recommend that we meet in a week, set the meeting, and I'm quite certain we're going to have things to talk about. As Duran's saying, there's only 6 weeks. To wait a couple weeks, you know, calendars get filled up and so forth, and to wait a couple weeks may be dangerous. You know, delay is dangerous. So, you know, we've got the provincial question out there. We've got lots of questions. So, for my part, I'd feel more comfortable having one in a week. Maybe not every week, but revisiting this question in a week's time, because I think that we're going to need to meet to have a lot of these decisions made. You know, it may be certainly, just, I forget who mentioned it, probably Gil. It may only be a one item meeting, but we're probably going to want to meet because those items need to be cleared from the agenda. So that's my input.
Okay, thank you. Gil, did you want to say something? You had your hand raised.
Yeah, just that I would be happy to wait until the end of the meeting on Thursday. Just had a meeting date. And I said 2 weeks out, but I don't disagree with Trevor that a week might be long enough.
Okay. Duran?
And if it helps, I'm happy to volunteer with Mark, just to draw on I'm not attending this Thursday meeting, but I can follow up and draw out those basic outcomes and draft what a 6-week view looks like that gets us there, and so that we know there. And I may be overthinking it, but it feels like this is a critical 6-week window. Let's dig in.
Agreed. Is anybody opposed to that? So in a week, even if we just kind of, we hear from the wardens and the mayor that have reached out to the province, or, you know, political leaders, that would be something that, would a week be enough time for you guys to reach out and have a conversation? Is that something we could talk about in a week, and then kind of see where our meeting led us on Thursday? And that could be something we could discuss at that meeting as well in a week. So is that okay with everybody, setting a meeting for a week's time? Okay, so if we look the calendar, then it's about getting everybody, that's our committee of the whole. But if we met, can we meet if we meet at 4, would that give us enough time? We have our committee of the whole meeting as well.
I think it might be useful to hear from Mark on this one, because
Okay.
he'll be the one. Yeah.
I was hoping to say that. I actually want to build on something that you said. This is a funding document. Your words were, you don't have to get this exactly right, and that is exactly right. Because one thing I can assure you is whatever rendering or floor plan that you arrive at with this concept design, the final product will look nothing like that. I can assure you of that. The new architect will come in and they'll have put their flair on it, their stamp. It'll look a whole lot different. What the deliverable is to get a yes from the funding people. Okay, so really, if your session Thursday, someone said to me, we're on the 29 or on the 32, that's all I need. I can start with the consultant Friday morning, and we can start. There will be lots of checkpoints along the way. After funding, you have all kinds of off ramps available in a project of this size. All you need is a starting point. And to be honest, day one hasn't started yet in this project. You don't even need a project manager until you have a project, and you don't have a project. So I'm saying that give the target budget, and if you want to put a risk tolerance in there, that's fine. Maybe it's 30 plus 2 risk tolerance. If it got to 32, there's no showstopper. Maybe it's 29 plus 2. I don't know. All I do know is the difference between 29 and 32 could make quite a difference in the size of a fitness center, which I believe you need in this project. Then as the consultant develops the floor plates, the 33 concept, and gets some budgets, all of a sudden you say, oh, we might have some money for the walking track. You don't have to get everything right, I don't believe, for this funding application. You have lots of time to get that right.
Thank you. Okay, so does that leave us still? Do we still want to do a week? Yes? Okay, yes, go ahead, Daniel.
Thanks, Madam Chair. If I may, I just want to request 4 o'clock's a little early for me, as you can tell. I had to run from the boat to get home to wash my face to jump on here with you guys. If it's at all possible, like 5 o'clock or 5:30 would work better for me. At least next week. After next week, I'm pretty clear.
More flexible.
I'm a little more flexible after next week.
Okay, that sounds reasonable. For us,
For us,
Our-
we couldn't do that on.
not on Tuesday. We have our committee of the whole on Tuesday. What about the Wednesday, the 26th?
That would be our council meeting that
That's
evening
your count.
at
Okay.
6 o'clock.
Listen, I don't want to hold it up, Nicole. So if 4 o'clock on Tuesday works for everyone else, go ahead. I'll catch on the end. I don't want to delay this.
Okay.
I don't want us to work around me and end up farther in the week and putting us, I agree with Duram. I'm hoping he can come up with his schedule for his, I was very impressed with his last schedule he came up with. So, yeah. And just to throw my 2 cents in because I've missed part of it, but listening to Mark, I agree with Mark. I think we're almost working backwards. I think we're working from a number to a building. And that's just how we're going to have to do it. I think we should have been looking at it that way from the start. I think we're a little behind on that as far as I'm concerned. That's how we should have picked a number from the get-go and worked our way backwards. I think we would have been better off right now. But yeah, don't delay because of me. Let's keep moving. Sooner the better.
Okay. So Tuesday, the 25th at 4 o'clock. Does that work for everybody? Okay. All right. So that's what we'll do. Okay.
Ola has his hand.
Sorry. Go ahead, Ola.
Just, I want to know what the agenda is, just so we're clear, because we talked about terms of reference. So is the expectation that we'll have the terms of reference ready for that date?
Is that possible?
I don't know that. I mean, we have something to work with. I think we could probably put a draft together that quickly. Yeah. I'm looking at Jeff. I'm waiting if he's going to nod or shake his head. Okay, he can give me a thumbs up. So, all right. So there's that, and then there's a status update based on the 20th, I imagine.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and I've already reached out to Zach. I just have to grab the federal counterpart to see if they can come in this week and have a chat.
So those three
that.
items.
Okay.
So, but the other thing, sorry, if I,
Yes, absolutely. Go ahead.
yeah, sorry. Duram had suggested that a schedule to the work that Mark is going to be undertaking over the next 6 weeks. I don't think that's a bad idea. So maybe that should be an agenda item. If it's possible, Mark and Duram can sketch that out in time for next Tuesday.
Correct.
Okay. Yes, Gil.
So if I can, I'm chomping at the bit, but if you guys came up with a target number Thursday afternoon and I got an email, I'm starting Friday, and there's nothing hard and fast about what we would start, but at least we're started.
Sounds good. Gil, did you want to say something?
Yeah, it's totally off topic, but I'm just wondering if the invitation was extended to the Acadia First Nations for this meeting today and future meetings.
We've talked about that at some point, but
Well, I know they had representatives online earlier. I'm just wondering if they are continuing to get the invitations.
If I may,
yeah, go ahead.
they are, Gil, not to the session on the 20th, because I think that was just between the 3 municipal funding partners. But yes, certainly to these meetings that they are still getting the invite.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so are we good?
Mhm.
We have a clear direction for the next meeting? Good. Okay, so our next meeting will be on the 25th at 4 o'clock, and we have some agenda items. Does anybody want to move to adjourn?
Before we adjourn,
Oh,
can I
yeah.
ask, Pam, okay, for us to be in contact with the government, when is that going to happen, and how we're going to do it?
What, about the meeting with the province and the
Yes.
feds? I just reached out to Zach, so he'll
Oh,
get
okay.
back to me. I'll reach out to Chris, and I'll see who else, and then I'll just let you guys know
Good.
when they can. I told Zach I asked Zach this week, but, you know,
Usually mornings are for me are bad, but I'm gonna make sure that I'm there. It doesn't matter when it is, what time it is, whether it's 8 in the morning or 1 o'clock the next morning. I don't care. I'll be there.
And should we be including Colton in this? Can it hurt to include Colton in this?
no, not at all.
It doesn't hurt.
I think, I know, I mean, he represents part of the constituency, so I'm just thinking it would be a great idea to maybe include him in it as well.
Good idea. Okay, yes, Jeff.
Sorry, I think Mark had a point he wanted to make. He just sent me a text, and I think it's an important one.
Okay,
Yeah.
sorry, go ahead, Mark.
Sorry. So to, again, all I can think about is day one getting started. So I believe that the consultant is out of available funding on his present agreement. So that is one thing you'd have to come up with is if he's going to be a lead in reprogramming the space and a new floor plan concept and revised estimate, then there's obviously be some funding that he's going to need to start.
Okay,
I don't know about the existing contract, but what I understand, he's out of available funding.
So might I suggest that between now and next Tuesday, you reach out to him with where we are and where we expect to be after Thursday night, and get some idea from him what would be required to get us to the application?
No problem. We had that preliminary talk this morning. I just need to get something in writing, but I just don't. Yeah, okay, I'll do that.
okay, thank you. Alain, did you have something?
Yeah, it's more of an admin thing around decision making. So we've talked very openly about Mark being the project manager. Did we make a motion to that effect here or a recommendation to that effect here? I think that would be important in order to set that actual direction in that way.
That's a great point. No, we didn't. We kind of had a consensus, but that was,
Yeah.
we did not make a motion for sure. Councillor Surratt?
I move it right on.
Do we have a seconder? Was that you? Warden Cunningham, was that you?
I would just, actually, we should really wait until after the 20th because our next meeting's a week from now. It could be understood here, but until we actually come down with a plan for funding and the percentages, I guess we could just by consensus agree that Mark would be, provided that these other chips fall into place. That would be just my opinion on that rather than rushing to a motion right away on that. That's totally up to the group. I would support the motion. It's just, I think we should wait personally.
I'd like to add something if I could. I've got a lot of experience from the federal government on large scale projects and steering committees and whatnot. There's actually two roles at this stage of a project. One's called the project leader and one's called the project manager. You don't need a project manager at this point in time. That's the one that's focused on the project and focused on the delivery, which starts at the design stage. A project leader is more like a project sponsor. He's your point of contact for the overall delivery. Doesn't get into the weeds, but does things like funding, reports to steering committee, and different checkpoints and off ramps. So it's actually the role you're looking for right now as a project leader, because you haven't got a project yet. So I mean, you can call it what you want, but the task at hand right now is a funding agreement, which will set the stage to start the project. So again, the term doesn't matter. It's just a function more than anything else. So naming a project manager is a bit early. It's just I would call it project sponsor, project lead is the right name.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I so move that he be the project, Mark Brophy be the project lead.
Do we have a seconder on that? Deputy Mayor Barry? Any other comments on that? Trevor, did you want to speak to that?
Nope, I was just gonna
You're gonna
clarify
second
the
it.
motion, but it's been clarified. Thanks.
Okay, anybody else want to speak to that? Seeing nobody? Story, go ahead, Jeff.
And no, just the one thing is that if you could put a parameter in there that is to complete the application. That's the availability at this point and the work, the primary work to complete the federal application.
Okay, so that's what we're going to add to the motion, as long as the mover and seconder are okay with that. Perfect. All right, any other comments?
Question.
Question's been called. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary minded, nay. Motion carried. Good, thank you. Thank you for that, CEO Muse. All right, so anything else? I think we've covered everything. Oh, yes, Duran.
Off topic, but taking the opportunity in front of all three municipalities, I just wanted to point back to last week's conversation on Mariners on Main and your swift approval of the plan. So I just wanted to celebrate the respect, all three councils and the work that happened last week. So cheers to you.
Sounds good. Awesome. Okay, so did we have a mover to adjourn? Not yet, eh? Can we have somebody move to adjourn the meeting?
To adjourn.
Warden Cunningham, do we have a seconder? And Warden Muse, all those in favor? I know we all are. Signify by saying aye. All right, motion carried. Thank you, everybody. So we'll see you in a couple of days.
See ya.
See you then.
Nicole.
Thank you.